Welcome back to another episode of Endure Athletics. Today, I'm excited to introduce to everybody who doesn't know him yet, Michael Murray. He's become a good friend of mine, a mentor of mine. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here.
um, let's just kind of start and let the audience know how we kind of first met, and then because I just think that's interesting how God put us together. And through the project what we were doing, and then kind of how where we are now. So
Sure. Well, I had heard of indoor athletics through different avenues of people that I knew, but I really had no connection with the ministry itself. And then at the church that I attend at River Oaks Community Church, our church decided to have I guess, a service type of an event called Serve Our City,
Yep.
where we were going to partner with a bunch of different local ministries and just serve them that day. And when I saw the things, I saw mini sports camp at with indoor athletics, and I thought, and then my wife was she saw the food part of it, and so we decided, well, let's do that. And so I met you that day, and immediately kindred spirit I felt, and saw that, and we had a great time that day, and we got to do it again the next semester, semester, and so yeah, that's kind of how we met, and I felt like in the small times we met, we immediately connected, so it was great.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just so exciting when there's so many different churches that are out that want to go out and serve our city, and and we're just honored to have River Oaks and you guys all out there, helping us do what we do on Saturdays, and the lesson that you did for the kids and your wife in the kitchen and doing all that stuff is just phenomenal. So it's just exciting to get more and more involvement in different churches, and and being able to pour in to other leaders like myself, how all this has kind of evolved into, and others in your church, and that we all kind of run around in that kind of same circle. Super, super exciting. So let's talk a little bit how our relationship grew a little deeper through Standing Stone, excuse me. And do you want to kind of explain what that is, and
Sure.
and why you're involved in that?
Sure, and I'll try to condense this down really quickly. Basically, long story short, I served in vocational church ministry for almost 20 years. I'll just say through a fall, failure, whatever you want to say, resigned from the church I was serving in, went through a divorce, and then following that, a season of brokenness, restoration. The calling to ministry for me was still there, but the fear of that was also there.
Yeah, so that's interesting, right? I mean, through it all, through mistakes and everything else, you still felt the call to ministry.
Yeah, and that's the odd thing.
Yeah.
A calling is a calling, and if you read through the scriptures, you see of people like David and Peter, who denied the Lord 3 times, but you don't see in those senses of the word the Lord giving up on them, or them not realizing that they still are called to do ministry. Obviously, ministry looks a lot different for me today than it did 7, 8 years ago. But yeah, it was still there, and it caused me to be restless to the point of where He was putting me back together, restoring me, and then this ministry came along and found me. But the Lord had been preparing me for that for several years, which I'm humbled by, grateful for, honestly.
So through that, I find it very interesting. Like, how Endure started. I was not I was in the steel industry, really didn't know what nonprofit world and ministry was like. And I just kind of went out here, through him. And one of the things for me was always like, man, leadership is lonely. Like there's that lonely piece of, you always have to be on, you got to shake the hands, everything's great, organization, and having those real authentic moments of like, this sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's hard and it sucks. And who are you going to say that to, right? Like, I'm not going to tell a donor that, right? It's all going to be the smiles and the, the politician type kind of thing.
Yeah. And I would say, and I may have told you this before, but I would say there's 2 avenues for people in ministry that makes it hard for them to do exactly what you're just talking about. The first is if I share this, what will people think of me?
Yep. Yep.
And also, if I share something really, really tough, what will happen to what I'm a part of in the
Absolutely.
role that I lead? And so, Standing Stone Ministry is a safe and confidential outlet, resource, whatever you want to call it, for people in ministry that costs them nothing financially to meet with, to be cared for, to be heard,
Yeah.
and to have a safe place to do that without fear of any of those things, which I didn't have that in that season of my life, or I didn't know that it existed.
Yeah.
I'm not making excuses, but I'm saying that I didn't feel a safety net there to be as vulnerable and honest as I needed to be.
Absolutely. And I can just speak on that just on my own, just the times that we have met, that is a safe place. Like that is a time that I can just be vulnerable and honest and just let it all out. And man, how helpful! It's just helpful, right? It's just
Well, I would say it's freeing,
yeah.
and I would say it. The goal of, or the mission of Standing Stone Ministry is to lead ministers into healthy ministry,
Hmm.
healthy from a relational standpoint, a mental, emotional, spiritual, even physical standpoint, to where you're operating out of a tank that's healthy,
Hmm.
which also allows you to thrive and to do ministry out of a heart that the Lord wants you to.
Absolutely. Again, I'm just very grateful for how all this had started and where we're at now, and being able to have you be able to lead me, through all this stuff and to help me out. It's just been terrific, and it's definitely been a big blessing.
Well, reciprocated is the blessing that you are to me. That's the thing too, is when I'm caring for people in ministry, I receive just as much of a blessing and benefit myself, because you know people don't always know when I'm caring for them that they're
Yeah.
saying things that are really ministering to me. They cause me to think about things in my own
Mhm.
life, to reflect on, okay, well, let me check myself too, because and that's what Standing Stone Ministry also does. They provide within the ministry of us to be cared for as we're caring for people, which
Yeah.
is healthy, which is good. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, how long has that been around in Middle Tennessee?
I don't know if I can answer
That's
that.
all right.
I've been a part of the ministry for a couple of years
Okay.
now. I know that the ministry itself has been around about almost 20 years. It started off in the West Coast, more in
Yeah.
California, Colorado areas, and has since shifted throughout the United States. And more Shepards, that's what we are called,
Yep.
are coming on board. Which, how many people there are in ministry in the world? I mean,
Yeah.
goodness. And so I don't know exactly how long. I know the people that met with me about the ministry were in the Middle Tennessee area when they talked to me, and had been there for a few years. So
How'd you get connected?
very interesting. I knew a local pastor in town who had gone through a fall, and him and his wife were meeting with a guy in Standing Stone
Okay.
who I know very personally now, obviously.
Okay.
And my pastor at River Oaks also was aware of the ministry. And one day, when I was so restless about what I need to do, we were talking in a coffee shop, and he mentioned it to me, which led to a phone call to that pastor, which led to a phone call to the Standing Stone person. That ended up being a conversation in Nashville where I shared my story. He shared
Hmm.
about the ministry, and then prayer and stuff took off from there. I went to a 2-day training, and then 3 or 4 months later, three months
Sure.
later, I said yes to come on board. And so it was kind of I just want to say a God led thing, because I never saw myself in a ministry like this. And, raising my own support was something I was not going to do,
Yeah.
was not
Yeah.
going to do.
Yeah.
I said I wasn't going to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
The Lord said, "Oh, really?
Yeah.
If I've called you to it."
Yep. Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
I get that. Like I never knew either. Like I'm like, what are you talking about?
And that's the other thing, just the favor of the Lord to provide people. I mean, this is what still shocks me, is that yes, we believe in the ministry, yes, we
Mhm.
believe in you, and yes, we'd be honored to come on board and
Yeah.
support. I mean, I still I'm humbled by that
Yeah.
daily.
Yeah. Same.
So
It's the same on our side too. I'm like, man, you know, people come on board and they want to support and love the mission and the vision and all those things. It's like, wow, man, that still amazes me to this day too. And like this little organization, to be able to do that. And with you and your story, um you know it had to be tough. It had to be tough. It had to be tough to be able to come back out here to be a minister, to be a shepherd, and to be able to lead. How? How do you? And I just say that because I don't know if I could. I don't know what that would have led to me or anything else. But I mean, that's really I admire it, and obviously, I mean, I admire it to a fact of you didn't quit, you didn't just give up, you just didn't move on to anything else. You're like, there's still a part that I need to minister.
Yeah, there's all kinds of emotions tied to that. I think the major thing for me is that restoration and how that looks. You can't put a timetable on it sometimes.
Mhm.
So I was convinced I would never be in ministry again.
Yeah.
And there may be some people out there who today think, well, I don't think you should
Could
be.
be.
But at the same time,
What's your response to that?
my response to that is that you're entitled to how you feel about certain situations.
Okay.
You're entitled to have a comment to that. At the same time, I know where I am.
Mhm.
I know whose I am and who I am.
Yeah.
I know how the Lord has put me back together, and I know that I'm living out of my identity in Him and not my identity in a title or a role or what the audience thinks. I have an
Yep.
audience of one.
Absolutely.
And I think that was the main thing, just the affirmation of that is, and that's what keeps me humble and grateful, because I still to this day don't always feel like, should I be this, but I just know,
Mhm.
it's just a quiet confidence of knowing that He has called me to something greater than myself,
Yeah.
and now I'm doing ministry out of a different heart, which that's hard to explain, but it's just, I know that I'm different and things are different for me.
Sure.
So that I hope that answers the
Yeah,
question.
it does, because we tend to want to put our pastors on that pedestal. They're perfect. They don't make mistakes. But at the end of the day, we're all human, right? And we all do our best. We all, and we all stumble and fall. I mean, but we don't ever want to believe that we put them up so high. I think sometimes,
Well,
and to have an honest, authentic, I made a mistake. I'm here. Like, let me help you not, right?
yeah. Let me help you not, but let me help you when you do. And
Yeah.
I think the thing is too is, leadership. And the Bible speaks to standards for leadership and roles
Mhm.
of leadership,
Yep.
and we're not going to ignore those or downplay those as they're not important. But I think a healthy congregation, a healthy leadership, whatever that looks like in the church, of
Mhm.
caring and walking with people. That's messy.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
time consuming,
yes. Yes.
but it's a beautiful picture of God's relationship with us
Mhm.
and His restoration of us. It's a beautiful example, a picture of what it looks like for someone to fall, but to be put back together
Yeah.
again and to walk through something. I just think it is. Now, obviously, I'm going to be biased in saying that
No.
the ministry I'm a part of, my story,
Yeah.
but I believe it's true, and I believe pastors and people in ministry need to feel that freedom to know, hey, I can be human. I can let my hair down. I do put on my pants legs the same as
Yeah.
anybody else, and
Yeah.
and I have a flesh like everybody else
Yeah.
does. So there are struggles, no matter how called you are. You can
Mhm.
look through the scriptures and see that
Yeah.
people who. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think sometimes too, um feel like the closer that I get to him, the more the attacks come. Um
well, I
I
think
don't
I
yeah.
think that's going to always be true. Not only do the attacks come because you're making a difference for the kingdom, and the enemy doesn't like that, but the closer you are to Him, also the more aware you are of your own sinfulness.
Yeah.
The more
Yeah.
aware
Yeah.
you are of things you need to put to death in your own life, and that's a good thing,
Mhm.
but yet a tough thing.
Yeah.
to deal with, to process through, and to really hone in on that and allow the Spirit of God in your life to change those things about you. Nobody likes change, and nobody likes to have things pointed out about them. But when they are, and you can own it, it's the road to putting that away is possible.
How long have you been in the Middle Tennessee area?
I have lived in the Middle Tennessee area all but 14 years of my life. I was in West Tennessee,
Okay.
but then the other 37 years of my life, I was, which do the math out there listening, that's 51. 37 years I was in the Middle Tennessee area. So 21 years in Hendersonville, and since 2005 here in Murfreesboro. 1991 to 2005 was in West Tennessee.
It was most of that in ministry itself? Has that been?
I went into ministry in 1995.
Okay, so it's been okay.
Yeah,
excellent. What would your advice be for a young pastor, a young person coming up through ministry, through all your years?
I love how you use the word all there.
Through it all. Well, you've seen, you've had to see a lot through multiple different churches and different organizations. And I mean, there's a lot of different things that go through. If there's a young leader coming up through, what would your advice be? I know I'd kind of put you on the spot with that, but just curious.
I would say a couple things. The first thing I would say that I think is very important is, however you can navigate and do this, find someone outside your church that you can meet with regularly. Could be somebody your age, could be somebody older. The older, the better, probably.
Absolutely.
That's one thing I would say. The second thing I would say is, when you're a young leader, you're full of ideas. You're sometimes full of yourself. I was,
yeah.
But to really try to hone in on being a learner, being someone who can be open to other people's ideas and stuff, and knowing that that's okay. I think the last thing I would say is, as a young leader, you have to realize that leadership is earned. And respect and trust is earned, and you can't immediately expect that all the time. There's a fellowship that develops when you care about people, like we talked about earlier, build relationships with people. Yeah. I think sometimes we expect things quicker than they're supposed to come.
Oh, no question.
And I know I did.
It's American dream.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah. So that's probably some of the things I would say for a young leader. But the first one is very important.
So I agree with that. So I struggled through the first 3 or 4 years of Endure. I had nobody that I felt that I could lean on, that I could reach out to, and just scrambling, right? Like just trying to figure it all out. And I ran across a couple of people who I still I meet with today, older, wiser, and say, Joel, come down. I've been there. I've done it. It's okay. Let me show you. Let me lead you into what that looks like, instead of me just running around. I can't believe, So I definitely agree with that. That's so important to have the older, wiser person that has been there and done it.
Yeah, well, and Proverbs teaches the principle of that, is that with much counselors, there's safety. With much people, and I know I go back to the Bible a lot, but I mean, I do that because our foundation is on that. And so if we believe those truths, we have to know that they apply to us and not just to those we lead. And so I think it's important. I have a person I meet with twice a month. I have other people that I press into and ask questions about, because I mean, even though I'm 51 years old, and some people will say, well, you're doing that for other people now, I'm still getting it from others too.
Yeah.
So I don't
lifelong learner.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it's all about. And and a new track too. I mean, this is, like you said, I mean, raising your own funds. I mean, that's a whole different ball game.
It is. It's, I'd be lying to anyone that's listening right now if I said, man, I just love doing that. But it is part of the calling.
Sure.
It is part of that. And so you have to kind of balance that thought process of that too.
Yeah.
And anyway.
Yeah, I know. And again, I know it from experience myself, and it's still not easy for me. I mean, we're in year 7, and it's still not easy.
But I find too that, people, I sell myself short on
Hmm.
people believing in me and the
Yeah.
ministry, and then I lose track of the fact that's true, that happens. And
Hmm.
as humbling as that is, it also needs to be in my own heart and mind that it's okay that people do believe in those things enough to
Absolutely.
support and to the
Yeah.
phrase I use, receive the gift.
Yeah.
I say that a lot because you're robbing people's joy. You're robbing people's who have prayed about that and who have been led to do that. You want to be appreciative of that.
Yeah,
If
and
you,
that it does. And that I had to have somebody else told me that same thing, like exactly what you just said.
yeah,
That's so important. And that's their gift to bless and what they want to see, what ex- excuse me, what they want to see done in the community and what they can do to be able to help
yeah.
us in the community.
Well, and I'll say this, a healthy person in ministry leads to a healthy leadership, organization, congregation, which leads to healthy communities. And when I say healthy, I really mean spiritually healthy. I
Mhm.
don't just mean, but that encompasses a lot of things.
Yeah,
And sometimes it's hard to define what that looks like, but stable, level, um, led in the right way.
yeah.
It just makes a whole thing function better, and lives are changed because of it, and lives are not damaged without it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's touch on a little bit about the small groups that you lead.
Okay.
W- w-
You talking about church?
yeah,
Okay.
and just why are small groups so important? What does that relationship mean? I mean, um, to the people that they have that community outside of the other community, the larger congregation.
Mhm.
Um, I know why it's important, but let's tell everybody else the importance of the small group.
Well, I mean, it kind of goes along to what we've been talking
Yeah.
about from a group standpoint. Life happens. I'll
Yes.
talk. I'll speak to that first. Like in our group that we lead, we've had people pass away of family members. We've had people who've had surgeries. We've had people who, you know, this and that, and you just need a tribe of people around you to do life with you when those things happen. And being isolated and being alone is the enemy's greatest tool.
It is.
And so I believe that everyone needs a group of people. Now, I'll say this in tongue in cheek. Sometimes you have to date groups and court groups and break up with groups,
All right, yeah,
until
to
you
find
find
that right one,
right.
right?
But I believe wholeheartedly in trying to make sure people get connected, and that's one of the things that I feel like is important to me. It's important to them, but it was also important to me, and it still is. You can do that within a larger group setting, or we have some men's groups that are just 3 to 5 people, and
Okay.
women's groups that are that size. So sometimes smaller is better too
Yeah,
to do that. So
yeah. I'm a believer in that too. I mean, it's just so important when you go to our bigger churches. It's so hard, and then you feel even alone in a bigger church. Like, well, nobody knows what I'm going through. Nobody knows that somebody's in the hospital or this, that, and the other. And that small group is so important.
And then you walk into a large church or a medium size or a small church, but you walk into the lobby and you see people now, and
Yes.
so
Yeah.
this is a bad analogy, but it's the Cheers where everybody knows your
Yeah.
name. You walk into and it's that same mentality. It's so encouraging and inviting when you walk into a place and people say hey and
Yeah.
talk to you.
Yep.
So that's part of that community too,
Yeah.
I think. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Pastor, I'm going to call you Pastor
okay,
now.
that's fine.
I just like to just say, man, I am so thankful that we've had time to be able to meet, and dive in a little bit more about what you do, and being able to connect with me. I mean, just the times that we spent through your ministry, your Standing Stone, has just allowed me to be honest and open. And I'll just say to people out there too, like you're just saying about the small groups, right? Like you have to vet and figure out, who do you connect with best. I mean, there's some people that you're just not going to open up to, right? It just is what it is for whatever reason. And I just want to thank you for allowing me to be able to open up and to be honest and just to let my true feelings and what's going on with my life and being able to feel comfortable with that. Man, it's just such a blessing that I can't thank you enough for that. And I'm looking forward to more and more coming down through the line.
Sure,
So
sure. Well, I'm the one that can say thank you to you, because within every confidant or with every community, the main word is trust.
Absolutely.
And that's something
It's
that
got to
is,
be mutual. You got to feel it on both sides.
you got to feel it on both
Yeah.
sides. And like I said, for a long time, I didn't.
Yeah.
I was like this with my hands out
Yeah.
to people, and I would only let them into a certain part, and that was it.
Yes.
And it's freeing to be able to have people in your life that you can do that with. And I'm humbled and grateful that I now have been changed in my heart to know
Yes.
that that's okay.
Yeah.
And it's good. So thank you for saying
Yeah.
that. And I would also say, if people ever want to check out the ministry of Standing Stone, it's standingstoneministry.org.
Yep.
And so go check it out and look at it and stuff like that. So.
Absolutely. And once we release, we'll put your link below so they can reach out to you, and what that looks like as far as what Standing Stone. I keep does everybody want to put the S on the end of it?
I think
so it's not just me.
Well, you don't like stone, you like stones. So it just makes sense. So
again, Michael Murray, I just want to again thank you for being on today.
Thanks for having me.
And just blessed for our relationship and where we're growing and where you're growing, and it's just super, super exciting. So thank you very much, Trent. Love you, brother. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Great episode. Thank you, Michael.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.